Hello everyone, and welcome back. After two failed attempts to save the world without relying on the fact that he's a dragon, Spyro has decided to retire and instead focus his energy on raising the next generation to reject their dragoninity just like he has. Unfortunately, before they can even hatch, they've been stolen away by the villainous Bianca under the orders of her master, the sorceress, and it's up to Spyro to get them back while holding true to his anti-dragon agenda. Can you beat Spyro 3, Year of the Dragon, without being a dragon? Here's the rules. Number 1, to simulate not being a dragon, we can't use any of Spyro's dragon abilities, meaning no flame breath, no flying, and no gliding. Number 2, we must get rid of sparks before we can start collecting anything in a level. And number 3, we must collect everything we can. We want a high completion percentage here, and not just to beat the game. Spyro 3 is definitely my favourite out of the OG trilogy, and it's also the one I'm most hopeful for this run actually working in, since a lot of the missions in this game focus on gimmicks that completely ignore Spyro's dragon abilities, but I won't get my hopes up just yet. So let's find out. Can you beat Spyro 3 without being a dragon? Before we get into that though, I actually have a couple updates about my last Spyro run. Firstly, viewer FireHedgehog1446 points out that every level in the third world, Winter Tundra, is technically optional since all we need to do to get to Ripto is have a large orb supply. Because of this, we could lower our uses of dragon abilities in the game by skipping the two levels in the third world that require them, namely Cloud Temples and Mystic Marsh. While this is definitely a good idea, if my math works out, doing these levels is still our best option though. Even with the orbs from these levels, we're still short to open the door to Ripto, meaning that if we didn't do them, we'd have to find even more orbs elsewhere to replace them, and as far as I know, the orbs in this level require the least uses of dragon abilities for the highest yield of orbs. Another thing I wanted to point out is not a viewer recommendation and rather a screw up on my end. I concluded that these explosive pots couldn't be broken as we'd need to flame them. I don't really know why I thought this, as I already had a workaround to this problem from my Spyro 1 vid. We can just charge into these to break them open. It will kill us since we don't have sparks to take the hit, but you'll still get the gem inside, making it a slightly tedious task to get these, but not impossible. Anyway, that's all for the updates for now, so let's actually get into the run. We start off in Sunrise Springs, the first homeworld, and immediately we have a bit of a problem, since as far as I know there's no way to take damage in the homeworld, meaning we can't get rid of sparks. We're going to have to carefully make our way past all of the gems over to the closest portal for Sunny Villa. When we get near to the portal, Bianca appears to warn us not to interfere, and when the cutscene starts, Spyro is forced to move towards some gems. I wasn't sure if we'd be forced to pick these up, so just to be safe, I held the charge button down during the cutscene so that Spyro would run away the second it ended. Once we get into Sunny Villa, we're not done, as all the enemies in the opening area are total cowards and will run away from us rather than attack, so we have to stealth our way past even more gems to get to one of the big Rhinox who thankfully are kind enough to beat us up and get rid of sparks for us. I decided that since we're already here we might as well complete Sunny Villa, so head back to the start and get collecting. Since, as I mentioned, the small Rhinox are cowards, it makes collecting all of the gems in the opening area very easy. Do remember to defeat all of them, as for this game, enemies back to giving us gems like in Spyro 1, none of this harvesting their soul nonsense like from Spyro 2. This does mean that any enemies we can't defeat, for example the big Rhinox in this level who we need to flame to take out, are also uncollectible treasure. Even though we can't defeat the big dudes here, they aren't really a problem to get around. Their attacks take a couple weeks to actually come out, so as long as you run past fast enough you won't get hit. Up on this step we can find our first dragon egg, which actually hatches right before our eyes. As far as the collectibles go, I think this is the best that the series has done. I really love the mission-based structure of Spyro 2, but the fact that all we got for completing these missions were some generic power orbs was pretty lame. Spyro 1's collectibles were much better, with each dragon having its own name and personality, but you got all of them doing basically the exact same thing, which made them a little tedious to collect. Spyro 3 takes the best elements of both of these games, having the missions of Spyro 2, but with each dragon egg that hatches being completely unique. Continuing up the platforms, the jump over to this one is a little bit too far, but with a charging jump we can just barely make it across to this one, and then into the building, where we come across an old enemy of the no dragon ability run, the Whirlwind. While these things themselves don't technically break our rules, they do force Spyro into a glide at the end of them, making them completely off limits. This is where I'm gonna bring up another viewer suggestion, once again from FireHedgehog, who points out that if we hold the charge button while using one of these whirlwinds, when exiting out, Spyro will glide for a split second before plummeting headfirst towards the ground with a charge. This cancels out a lot of the distance we would otherwise get out of the whirlwind, but it does arguably also make them okay to use with these rules. To be honest, I knew about this even way back in my first run, but decided not to use it since some people might still call the split second glide a violation. violation. But I figure, who am I to go against the will of the people? And by people I mean this one commenter, so for this run I'm going to allow whirlwinds as long as I hold charge while using them. So with that new development, enter the whirlwind, get to the top, charge out, and faceplant straight into the wall. Yeah, this whirlwind's still not viable with these rules, so I guess I could have left this addendum till later. Anyway, from here, jump down to get the treasure on this platform and move on. Follow the path around until you find this gate leading to the end of the level. Wait, what? Why isn't it opening? Oh wait, I have to defeat this enemy first. And the only way to do that is with a flame. Yeah, so we can't get to the exit, and just like in Spyro 2, we can't skip levels in this game. We have to get to the end of each one. Since we can't get to the end of this one without using flame, it means that no, it's not possible to beat Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon without being a dragon. Huh, shows me for getting my hopes up, huh? I'm honestly glad though that this happened early on rather than later in the game, so we can just transition to the minimalist challenge rather than proceeding under the delusion of the challenge still being a success. If we talk to the mayor, we're rewarded with another egg, and the exit portal will appear, but before we leave, head up the path to the left to find a portal that leads to a sick skate park, where Hunter challenges us to some Tony Hawk action. We have to ram 15 lizards around the course to be awarded an egg. Now, Spyro's wings may be flapping around while he does this, but it doesn't take a dragon to be a radical skater. Believe me, I know. So this egg and the second one Hunter gives us for completing the same challenge under a time trial are foregone conclusions. There are also some gems around the course which you can collect while on the board, but I made sure to clean up the last of them on foot when I was finished to make sure I had everything. With that, Sunny Villa is complete, and we can leave with 264 out of 400 gems and 4 out of 6 eggs collected. Back in the homeworld, now without sparks, we can get to collecting all of the treasure and the egg we missed before. Now head over here to reunite with our good old friend, Moneybags. Apparently his old racket back in Avalar fell through, so he's moved here and has basically set up a private prison, holding enemies of the sorceress. Of course, he has no real loyalties, and for a small fee is willing to set one of his prisoners free, so pay the man to free Sheila the kangaroo, who's willing to let bygones be bygones. Bye! He's gone. By freeing Sheila here, we unlock her as playable in some missions, as well as unlocking her world, but we'll come back to that later. Down the path a bit, we can find Hunter, who wants to teach us about gliding. He tells us that this gap is only crossable with a glide, but we can actually make it across easily with a charging jump, which is good, or we'd be locked out of this level here. The next jump does actually require a glide though, so the goodies on the other side are off limits to us. Behind one of the portals here we can find this rock, which we can bust open for an egg using the head bash move, which is unlocked from the start this time. This is another thing I really like about this game, the fact that all of the abilities we learnt in the last one stay unlocked in this one, and they don't pull some dumb reason for us to have to relearn them all. On that note, we also keep our ability to swim, and if we dive down into the water here we can collect even more gems and another egg. There are a few little areas around the water here, so make sure to get all of the gems there. With that, we've done all we can in this homeworld, and can move on having collected 342 out of 400 gems and 3 out of 5 dragon eggs. Next up, let's head over to Sheila's Alps, the level we unlocked by freeing Sheila earlier. If you hadn't already guessed, this one has us playing as Sheila, and acts as a bit of an introduction to how she controls. I could do an in-depth walkthrough of how to complete this level without being a dragon, but here's the thing. Sheila the kangaroo is, get this, a kangaroo, and I did a little bit of research and it turns out that kangaroos are in fact not dragons, meaning that by definition everything in this level can be completed without being a dragon, giving us 3 out of 3 dragon eggs and 400 out of 400 treasure. There's also a Sheila segment back in Sunny Villa, but since it's above the whirlwind we can't actually get there. Onto Cloud Spires next. Here we have to help these weird looking fairy things get their weather generator back up and running. As always, we can't take out the big enemies here, but in this level they also can't take us out, rather just pushing us around by blowing air at us. Headbutt this button to make the platform start lifting and lowering, and use it to get up here where we come across a bit of a problem. We have to cross this gap over to the other side, but there's no way that a charging jump can make this. Because of that, this is another level that we're going to have to use our dragon abilities. Not just once though, as from here to get over to the next area we need to use this whirlwind, but without being able to glide out of it we have nowhere near enough distance to make this gap, and since we have to get across to continue the level, that's another mandatory glide. All of the gems in the next area are pretty easy to collect, but apparently this egg is actually unobtainable. No matter how close we get to it, as long as the enemy here is still alive, it won't hatch, and since it's a big enemy, we have no means of taking them out. Press the button here to activate another set of raising and lowering platforms that takes us up to Moneybags. You have us to activate the rest of the bellows in the level, which I think are what those raising and lowering platforms are called. Pay the man and use the platforms this activates to continue on. Unfortunately, this leads to yet another required glide. This level just won't let up. At least from here, the path to the end doesn't require any more dragon abilities. The fairy at the end uses the bellows to unblock the weather generator to get it working again, and as a reward for our help she gives us the egg that was stuck inside. If we jump down to the start of the level, we can find a bunch more whirlwinds activated around the place. However, charging out of all of these makes them useless, cutting us off from a lot of areas in this level. There is one whirlwind that we can use at the end of the level, and we don't even need to charge out of it while using it, since at the end of this one it teleports us to another area, skipping the glide regardless. In this area we need to use a flight power up to go around and flame these spirits, which should pretty obviously be off the table. We can still get an egg in this area though, thanks to the return of the na-na-na-na-nas from Spyro 1. Damn, these guys are annoying, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss them in the last game. Shooting them down goes the same as in the first game. Run after them, taking little shortcuts to get closer, and once you bash into them, you get the egg. Now, collect all the gems up here and jump back down into the main part of the level and go into the portal over here. Here, we need to get these dripped out sun seeds into the pots at the end to grow the fairies a new sun. We can get the seed to move out of the pool of lava by standing on this button, but from here it'll only react to being burnt. Charging it won't move it at all, making this task uncompletable. So just collect the gems in the area and we're done in this level, and can exit with 287 out of 400 treasure and just 2 out of the 6 dragon eggs collected. Even with the underwhelming egg collection in Cloud Spires, we still have more than enough eggs to power up the portal to Molten Crater, so let's head on in. We have to help the inhabitants here clear out the Tiki Lodge from the Rhinox that have invaded. I'm always worried with enemies that charge in these games, but our charge outcharges the charge of the boars in this level, so thankfully we can take them all out for their sweet sweet gems. If you explore the starting area, you'll come across a locked chest that we can't open until we find the key. We'll come back to this later though. This is the first level where I really found the big enemies to be a problem. These ones attack with whips that come out super fast, and I don't know if it was just me being too nervous to get close enough, but I had a real hard time baiting out the attacks to get a chance to get past. Everything they guard is still collectible with some proper movement, but be prepared to die a lot getting it. This egg especially was a real hassle. We just have to drop down here to get it, but then we can't jump back out the way we came, and the only other way out is to jump towards the direction of this big fella. I died a lot trying to get past them, but with some proper movement and a little bit of luck, I was able to get past and survive. Head through the cave, and when you emerge on the other side, you'll be in what I assume is the titular Molten Crater, looking at all the magma everywhere. From here, it's a pretty easy path to the end of the level for another egg. There are a few little platforms around the lava which we can safely navigate with charging jumps for some more gems and the key to that previously mentioned chest. With the key in hand, we can now use the shortcut to get back to the start of the level and open up our goodie box for some more precious treasure. Head back to the exit portal and hang right and follow the path to find good old Moneybags, who helped some thieves escape and now wants us to pay to pursue them. We have more than enough gems, so pay the bear and head through the portal. There are quite a few gems in this area and they're pretty spread out, so be thorough with your sweep to make sure that you get them all. There's also a metal chest here that we can't smash open with our standard charge. We can still get the gems inside, but just not yet. First, we need to catch the na-na-na-na-na running around the pathway. Once nabbed, another one will appear, this time way faster than the first. Luckily, the path now gets upgraded so that charging on it makes us supercharge. Catching this na-na-na-na-na is a lot harder, having to make all of these turns at max speed, and there were a few times I actually overshot them, but in the end, catching them is a foregone conclusion. We can also use the supercharge to bust open the metal chest that I mentioned before. There is still an area in this level we haven't explored yet, but we can't go there until we've freed another one of the sorceress's enemies, so for now, we're done here and can move on to the last level of this homeworld, Seashell Shores. Here, this seal's buddy's been imprisoned, and we need to help break them out. A lot of this level is actually underwater, which is a good thing since when we're swimming, flying, gliding and flames are all off the table anyway, so it has to be completable without using them. Once you've collected everything in the first underwater segment, break down the wooden barricade and head out into the fresh air, then dive straight back down into the pool of water here to nab our first egg. The big enemies in this level can actually be defeated, but not directly. They roll these metal barrels at us, and by charging into them we can send them flying back, which has enough force to knock them out. This works on all of them in this level, even the two on elevated platforms, so the one on the higher platform is a little trickier. Charging the barrel from ground level doesn't give us enough height to reach them, so instead we have to time a jump off the platform they're standing on so that we can turn around and bash the barrel they chuck back at them while still in the air. This took me quite a few attempts to actually hit the enemy, and I somehow got pancaked in the air a few times, but I did eventually manage to take them out and steal the treasure. Break down the wooden barrier and head into the next area. This part has a few areas we unfortunately would need a glide to get to. The room up here is just out of reach without one, but all that this loses us is a handful of gems. What's worse is that without a glide we can't get over to these platforms, meaning that we can't get to the Sheila section of this level, blocking us out of some otherwise easy collectibles. Once you've collected everything in the area, dive down into the water here. Just like with the last underwater area, everything can easily be collected. Break down the barricade and defeat the octopus holding the seal to free them, and as thanks for our help, we're rewarded with an egg. Now back out into the area we just came from and head into the portal on the wall. This seal here decided to use one of our eggs to test their high-speed tunnel, and in order to get it back, we're going to have to make it to the end of the tunnel while avoiding all the mines that are down here for some reason. We also have to hit all of the Rhinox in the tunnel on our way down, which doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, if we got past them, how are they stopping us from progressing just because they're not dead? Well, never mind. It'll probably take you a few attempts to make it down to the end of the tunnel, well, but once you know where all the mines and Rhinox are positioned, it's really not that hard to get the egg here. There's one more area we haven't explored yet, and I always forget about this one and struggle to find it. Back out here, swim straight up and we can exit the water to find another portal. This one leads to a mini-boss of sorts. We have to defeat this shark sub by shooting missiles at it from this boat. I found this mission really annoying. The boat handles terribly, making it hard to avoid damage sometimes, and remember, without sparks, we're always one hit away from death. It is still possible to do though, just keep your distance and aim your shots carefully and you'll eventually take out the sub and be awarded an egg. There are a few gems in and around the arena, so be sure to explore it once you've beaten the boss, and we can call this level done, ending with 4 out of 6 eggs and 259 out of 400 treasure bagged. With all of the levels completed, we can now ride the hot air balloon to the next homeworld, but before we get there we see a sorceress berating Bianca for her inability to stop Spyro. She gives her a spellbook and tells Bianca to use whatever it takes, leading to Bianca to turn one of the Rhinox into a hideous monster, and before we can continue, we've got to take this thing out. Thankfully, we have Sheila here to help. Buzz kind of acts like the bullies in Mario 64. They'll try to bash us off into the lava and we just have to bash them into it first, at which point Sheila will stomp on them to deal some damage. It's pretty easy, all things considered. After 2 hits, Buzz will start to erect a wall of fire every time we bash into them, but all this really does is slow us down a bit before we inevitably back them into the lava. Then, once we bash them into the lava 2 more times, they'll start spitting fire at us, which again really doesn't change anything. Just charge them into the lava 2 more times and boom, Buzz is defeated and we're even awarded an egg. Oh great, a rainbow. Spyro's gone woke. Shut her down, lads. With the boss defeated, we can now actually proceed into the next homeworld, Midday Gardens. Before anything, Bianca appears and warns us again not to continue, though this time it seems a lot less like a threat. I'm not going to fool her tricks though, she's still our enemy. Before doing anything else, jump into the pond right here to find our first egg. We can find another one just laying out for the taking over in the nearby cave. What kind of a name is Mingus? Anyway, head up the stairs and into the next area to find Nana that we can chase down for their precious egg. There's also a metal chest here that we can't open without a super flame power up from later in the level, so its contents will forever remain a mystery to us. There's also an egg that we get for using this power up to break these plant pots around the place, making it also uncollectible. Luckily, it doesn't take a dragon to climb up the ladder, putting the last egg here into our grasp. That's everything in this homeworld cleared, for a total of 4 out of 5 eggs hatched and 378 out of 400 treasure banked. We're not fully done here yet though, as Moneybags has captured another one of the sorceress's enemies, who could be useful in our quest, so pay the man to free Sergeant Bird, who takes no time to get revenge on the greedy bear. We might as well handle the level we unlocked by freeing the Sergeant now, Sergeant Bird's base. In this one we play as, you guessed it, Sergeant Bird, who, get this, just like Sheila the kangaroo, isn't a dragon, meaning that this level is actually impossible to complete while being a dragon. Now you might say, but Sergeant Bird flies and flying is against the rules, to which I say, bird flight and dragon flight are obviously completely different things, making this our second 100% completable level with 3 out of 3 eggs and 500 out of 500 treasure collected. We also unlocked the Sergeant Bird segment back in Molten Crater by freeing him, so let's head back there and check it out. There are 2 eggs here, one for reuniting all of the Tiki people with their heads, and another for breaking down this wall, and again, bird, not dragon, so both of these are completely attainable, as well as all of the gems in the area, finishing this level off with 6 out of 6 dragon eggs and 376 out of 400 treasure. Right, let's get back into Midday Gardens and start on the real levels here, starting with Icy Peak. This polar bear dude is trying to get to their fishing buddy by using the cannons to clear a path of ice, though they clearly don't know what they're doing, so we need to help out. These are the exact same cannons that appeared in the last game that thankfully don't require any flames to use, so just jump aboard and use it to clear a path, as well as destroying the TNT on the ice and executing all of the birds flying around. We can also break open the ice blocking this whirlwind, but even with this gone, we wouldn't be able to clear the gap over the platform with all of the gem pots without gliding, so let's just move on. There are no cannons within range of the TNT boxes in this room, so our only option to break them all and get the gems inside is by charging each one, dying, and coming back to take out another one. This gets real tiring, really quick. Continue on until we come to another room with 3 TNTs in it, this time on a floor of ice. I really didn't want to waste more time wasting lives dying to each one of these, but luckily I didn't have to, since these ones are infested with these rats. They slide the TNT boxes towards us once we get close enough, and by luring them off the ice they'll explode and give us the gems without us needing to sacrifice ourselves. You'll probably notice that the ice here looks a bit strange. We're meant to head bash the ice to break it apart to get to the area below, but we can't jump on the ice to initiate a head bash. We could do one off this platform, but we can't actually get up there, so this area will forever be out of our reach. There are a couple more TNT boxes with rats on them on the ice outside this room, but this one here you'll still need to die to score the treasure inside. Continue up to the cannon here and use it to destroy all the ice in the area and take out all of the enemies that your shots can reach. I also shot this egg here, but sadly nothing happened, though I don't really know what I was expecting to happen. There's also a chest on this distant platform here which we can't reach, but even if we could, we can't flame the rocket that we need to break it open anyway. We also can't get across to the room across from the cannon that was behind one of the ice walls. The path to the next area has a TNT in it, but for this one I realised I could just lure one of the Rhinox into shooting it open rather than wasting a life on it. Out of the cave, hang right and jump across the small gap, then follow the path to get that egg that we tried to scramble earlier. Continue on until you get to the next cannon and use it to clear everything in the area. There's yet another distant platform here with a locked chest on it which again we unfortunately can't reach. While we're here, we might as well talk to Moneybags, who was trapped behind some of the ice that we broke earlier. There's a figure skating show about to start, but unfortunately the only tickets available are the ones he's scalping, so buy them and head through the portal. The skaters trying to get some practice in, but the local hockey team's trying to kick them off the ice, so they've asked us to defend them. Sadly, we can't charge on ice, so the only way that we can fend off the hockey players is with flame, meaning that there's nothing we can do here. Oh, what a waste of gems this was. Continue on to find the other polar bear, who reveals that they actually put all the ice walls up as a joke on their buddy and gives us an egg for all of the trouble. There's a cannon in the area to the left of the exit portal that we can use to take out a few more enemies, then head down the stairs to the right to find another portal. This one leads us to a maze of supercharged paths with a na-na-na-na-na running about. It can be quite easy to lose track of this dude or take the wrong path, especially when the second faster na-na-na-na-na gets involved, but regardless we can chase both of them down for our last 2 eggs of this level, bringing us to a close with 288 out of 500 gems and 4 out of 6 dragon eggs. We now get a cutscene showing Bianca testing out her new magic powers, which almost gets herself killed. This could be great, she's about to take herself out of the picture, but no, Hunter has to go and save her. I was already suspicious of whose side you were on in the last game, bro, but openly fraternizing with the enemy? I got my eyes on you. Go talk to the trader up by this powered down portal and he'll give us a rock which we can spit at the target up top to power up the portal to Enchanted Towers. Here these hipsters were forced to build a statue of the sorceress and it's up to us to have it unbuilt. This level is full of those rocks that Hunter gave us earlier which we can pick up and spit out to take out otherwise undefeatable enemies. You'll basically always want to have one of these in your mouth just in case there's an enemy in our way. And yes, despite this using the flame breath button, spitting rocks is allowed as it doesn't take a dragon to do this. Here's the same evidence that I used last time. I got dirt in my mouth getting this clip, so yeah, I'm gonna reuse it as much as I want. We pretty quickly come across a problem in this level, as the main path forces us to cross a long gap, which is way too far for us to make with the charging jump, so wings, don't fail us now. There's another gap across to an egg in the tower that we land in, which is just barely jumpable, though just after this is the second gap on the main path that requires a glide. This one looks like it should just barely be possible with a charging jump, and maybe it is, but I tried a lot and I just couldn't get it. But don't put those wings away yet, as there's a whirlwind we've got to use, and yep, charging out of this one makes it unusable, so that's another glide, albeit a little one this time. There are some gems up top here, and then, yep, let me just work out the distance here, do some calculations, a little bit of trigonometry, and yep, that's another glide. Damn, this level just won't let up on these. Luckily, that is the last glide. Not the last dragon ability though, as to destroy the statue we need to set off these rockets with our flame breath. We can minimize the required flames though, as we can get these flying enemies to light the rockets here and here, but the last one is far too far away from them, meaning that we have to flame it ourselves. For our help destroying that eyesore, we're given a dragon egg. With that, a whirlwind activates around back leading to the higher part of the level, and it's another whirlwind that charging out of makes completely useless. Dang, we sure are getting a whole lot of use out of this whirlwinds are allowed as long as we charge out of them rule, aren't we? There's also a portal hidden in the area underneath the statue that leads us to a skate park. This time Hunter's here to give us a tutorial on doing tricks, which seems like a bit of weird timing since we've already had a skating segment in the first level. Surely a tutorial makes more sense there. Once we complete this tutorial, he gives us an egg and then challenges us to score more points than him in 2 minutes for another egg. Seriously dude, you already have the egg. Why are you withholding it? Thankfully, it's not too hard to score more points than him. Hunter might be a good skater, but I'm a radical one. Once you've got the eggs, clear out the last of the gems in the area. All these can be got, but some of them require you to be on the board to nab. So these ones here were especially annoying to get, but with enough persistence you'll grab them all and can finish the level with 4 out of 6 dragon eggs and 244 out of 500 treasure. Next up is Spooky Swamp. Ooh, scary. This place is home to these French fireflies who speak in haiku for some reason. I don't know, this is a weird one. The water in this level, unlike most of the water in this game, is actually hazardous to be in, thanks to the piranhas infesting it, but unlike other hazardous liquids like lava, we can kind of still survive in this water by jumping out of it quickly before the piranhas can bite, making it somewhat traversable. As you go through the level, you'll come across these big candles which we would usually light to activate a mini-boss at the end, but obviously that's going to be a no-go. though. This enemy blocking the bridge worried me a little bit, but jumping around them honestly isn't that hard. I don't really have much to say about the main path of this level, to be honest. It's a pretty easy and straightforward path to the end for an egg that definitely doesn't require any dragon abilities. There's another egg sitting over on this island, but you can kind of just, jump to it. Things get a bit more interesting after the end portal appears though. In the last building with the candle in it, there's a jump over to the path that leads to an egg, but it's just barely out of reach. These are really the worst types of areas for this run. I swear I've made jumps longer than this before, but for some reason this one won't work. At least this time it's not required. Lastly, we have a Sheila segment complete. Just like all Sheila segments, this one is completable, but this time I really wish it wasn't, since this is one of my least favourite missions in the entire game. We need to help this Firefly get a bomb to a cage to bust out a dragon egg. Remember the alchemist from Spyro 2? This is just that, but somehow more annoying. We have to escort this bug to the end, getting rid of rocks and mushrooms in its path, but for whatever reason, this idiot decides to just walk straight into them. Seriously, you could just go around them. I would understand if they need to take the shortest path so that the bomb doesn't explode on them, but no, they are actively taking a longer path than necessary. Bro's doing a completely superfluous U-turn. The rocks are easy enough to get rid of, since once they're broken they're gone for good, but the mushrooms are a real pain. They pop back up after a short period of time, meaning that we can't just clear the path in advance. We need to do it at the right time so that the Firefly can pass before it pops back up again. And the worst part of all, once you finish getting this damn insect to the end, their friend needs an escort as well, so we have to do it all over again. It's really not that hard once you've learnt the path the Fireflies will take, but getting to that point is just pure pain. At least we get 2 eggs for our trouble, so we can move on with 405 out of 500 treasure and 4 out of 6 dragon eggs. Our final level in this homeworld is Bamboo Terrace. There are several obstacles blocking the path forward in this level, and we need to save these pandas to have it cleared. Unfortunately though, most of them are being harassed by large enemies, meaning that a flame is required to save them and continue. There are 2 in particular, this one in the opening area and this one that builds a bridge later on, meaning that 2 more flames will be required to get through this one. In the second area, there's an easy egg sitting over on this platform just waiting to be hatched. After we get to the exit portal and get our egg for completing the level, a na-na-na-na-na will appear that we have to chase around the whole level. It actually takes out one of the big enemies for us, giving us an extra gem, which is nice. Now, I'll take that egg of yours as well if you don't mind. Behind the exit portal, we can find a platform with our first question mark posh, returning from Spyro 2. When we break these open, they'll move back in the level, and once we hunt it down and break it enough times, we get the precious gems held within. This one here though is just out of reach, so we can't even get the chain started. There's also another area here locked off until we free another one of the sorceress's prisoners, so we'll have to do a revisit here. There's also a portal on this bridge, but the challenge inside requires use of the Super Flame power-up, so don't even bother with it. According to the guidebook, there's also an egg here called Glide to the Hidden Cave, which I honestly don't even know where it's located, but given that it says Glide in the name, I'm happy to just call this one completely impossible. With all of the levels completed here, we move on to the next homeworld. On the way, we see Bianca once again being chewed out for her failure. The sorceress then decides to take matters into her own hands, using her magic to turn one of her minions into a hideous beast, and now we gotta fight it. This boss is pretty forgettable, as in I literally forgot it existed. Even playing it back for this run, I have no memory of ever doing this fight before. For the first phase, Sergeant Bird drops these bombs in, which we just need to headbutt into the monster to damage it. After 2 hits, the ground will start to crack, causing plumes of fire to shoot out, which we'll have to avoid. For the second phase, the Sergeant will now be dropping these Super Flame power-ups, and with no other way to damage Spike, we have to use 2 of these to continue. Spike can also pick these up to power up their attack, but it's not too hard to avoid it if this happens. For the last phase, we're given these purple orbs, which we just pick up and spit out to attack, which is legal for this run. We get an egg for our trouble, and can now go back to forgetting this boss even exists. We arrive in Evening Lake, our next homeworld, and immediately Bianca appears to plead with us to just take the eggs we've gotten so far and leave, and as much as she tries to make this out as out of concern for us, I'm still not going to trust this ne'er-do-well. Evening Lake is probably the least completable homeworld out of the lot, which is weird since a lot of it's underwater, which I thought would make it the most completable. We can easily nab the egg behind this wall and the one in the belly of the whale. Jonah, that's cute. But other than that, the rest are locked behind gaps that are way too far for us to jump, meaning that we only net another 2 out of 5 dragon eggs and 347 out of 400 treasure. I know that's not actually what the number on screen says, but I picked up an extra gem I wasn't meant to. Oops. If we swim up into the castle, we can find good old Moneybags with another prisoner, this time Bentley the Yeti, who repays us for freeing him by beating the snot out of Moneybags. I know I said I'm not as anti-Moneybags as other people are in the last vid, but I gotta admit it's great seeing him so frequently get his comeuppance in this game. Let's get Bentley's outpost out of the way. It's another level where we don't play as Spyro, so it's completely completable, but damn, I really don't like playing as Bentley in this game. He's so slow and we have to deal with this over-the-shoulder camera angle like it's God of War 2016 or something. Just really not fun, so let's get out of here with 600 out of 600 gems and 3 out of 3 dragon eggs. We can also revisit Bamboo Terrace for another painful Bentley segment. This time we need to climb this mountain to get an egg at the top, while Rhinox roll boulders and TNT barrels at you. Smash the boulders and deflect the TNT barrels. It's not too hard, but come on Bentley, get a move on. The egg will have hatched by the time you get up there at this pace. That brings Bamboo Terrace to a close, giving us a total of 4 out of 6 eggs and 406 out of 500 treasure collected. Back in Evening Lake, let's head into Lost Fleet. This level features both rocks we can spit and cannons, giving us a multitude of options to use to take out the large enemies here, though I don't know if they even count as large enemies, seeing as it's just a couple of regular Rhinox pulling the old 2 kids in a trench coat trick. At the first cannon, use it to break open the metal chest, then clear the path to continue. In the next area we come across yet another barely unjumpable gap, this one being probably the most barely unjumpable of them all. Seriously, how is this not working? It's not even that wide, come on! At least there's nothing really to worry about for the rest of the level, so it's pretty easy to get to the end for our eggy reward. This is a level though that really only starts after the exit portal appears though. Firstly, jump into the nearby whirlwind, which we can actually use for a change, to get up to the top side of the crashed ship. There's not really much up here other than a few gems and a cannon that we can use to delete some of the birds flying around the place. We're also meant to glide over to this distant cave from up here, but if you've forgotten, we can't do that. Instead, jump back down into the area we started in. Here you'll find a whirlwind has appeared, and it's another one that we can actually use. Lucky today, aren't we? Follow this path around, taking out crabs till you come across a portal which leads us to another skate challenge. Unlike the last one, this is a race against these Rhinox. You can build up a boost by running into crabs or doing tricks off ramps, and there's also these little blue stars you can jump through for a burst of speed as well. There's also these red stars which give you a weapon to use, but I don't know, these are pretty unnecessary. The race is already really easy without taking out the competition. After we get our egg for beating the Rhinox, Hunter, of course trying to sabotage our mission at every turn, challenges us to a race against him for another egg. It's really not all that hard. Hunter, you gotta learn to stop challenging a master skater.
I don't know how to skate.
Once that's done with, I did another sweep of the course to make sure that I got all of the gems. Some of these can be a little hard to collect, mainly the ones on the shortcuts, but all of them can be gotten. Now head back to the exit portal, but we're still not done here yet. Instead, head into this other room with the defense power-up in it. We can use this to temporarily swim around in the acid water, where we can find more gems, though it will likely wear off before you can collect them all, so make sure to get out of the water before that happens. We can also find a room with another egg hidden in it, as well as a whirlwind that we can actually use. What's up with all of these in this level? I mean, I'm not complaining, but I could have used some of these earlier. It just leads to a way out of the cave, but I thought I might be able to jump across to one of those caves that we couldn't glide to before, and Spyro, you okay buddy? Let's just leave Spyro to work his own way out of this, and we can exit the level with 430 out of 600 treasure and 4 out of 6 dragon eggs collected. Frozen Altars is our next destination. This level has a bit of a gimmick. See, at the very start, this fairy changes Spyro's usual flame breath into an ice breath, which rather than taking enemies out, can freeze them in place to be used as platforms or the like. You might think that since it's flame breath and not ice breath that's disallowed in the rules, that we can use this to our heart's content. However, if you've seen my Spyro 2 vid, you'd know that we've come across this before. In that vid, I decided that this power acts more like a modification to Spyro's flame breath than a replacement, meaning that he wouldn't be able to use this if he wasn't a dragon, thereby making ice breath just as against the rules as flames. Luckily, there's not actually a single point in this level that requires us to freeze someone. All that we miss out by not being able to do this is a couple of gems and unfortunately a few eggs. We can still take out some of the big enemies in this level by using the laser defense systems that we have to use to clear the path. That doesn't mean that this level doesn't require any dragon abilities though. Unfortunately, this gap here is way too wide for us to cross without our wings. At least this gap is big enough to deserve a glide, none of this barely unjumpable nonsense. Right next to the exit portal is Moneybag, selling tickets to a hockey game, and having not learned my lesson from the last tickets I purchased from him, I bought them and headed in. Here we have to beat this Rhinox in a hockey match, which was a mission that I actually had high hopes for, since hockey was a mission type in the last game and it was completely doable. But this time we're not playing with pucks that we can pick up, we're playing with cats. Cats that we have to freeze, with ice breath that we can't use. So it's unbeatable, right? Oh, I wish that were the case, because this mission is maybe the most irritating thing from any of these Spyro challenges so far. See, when our opponents slap the cat also freezes, meaning that we can steal it away from them and use it to score our own goals, making the mission technically doable. But there is so much that you have to constantly fight against here to make this happen. First, the cats don't stay frozen. They defrost after a short time, making several occasions where a perfect shot will just stop and defrost right before landing in the goals. Secondly, the ice. The physics here aren't as bad as in some other games, but it's just frustrating the way you slide around, making it hard to hit the cats at a good angle, not to mention that we can't charge on the ice, so we're stuck moving at the same or maybe an even slower pace than our opponent. Because of this, you'll have to rely on the Rhinox scoring own goals, or one of the other cats on the field bumping the frozen one into our goal to score points. Oh, and speaking of the other cats on the field, there's a lot of them, and they can bump the puck around, which as I mentioned can sometimes help you, but more often than not will screw you over with them blocking your shots. And worst of all, the one thing that makes this mission hair-pullingly annoying is that our opponent can hurt us. When they hit the puck, if we're too close, we can get hit as well, and since we don't have sparks, one hit equals back to the start with ya. I spent hours grinding away at this, trying to win, and eventually I was able to get it, but I didn't feel satisfied at the end, just glad that I could finally move on. And yes, I know that I still have sparks in my winning attempt. After so many tries, I forgot to get rid of him, but look, he's still golden, and since there's no way to restore health in this arena, that means that I did this without getting hit. I'm not replaying this pain again, just to get footage of me without sparks. Leave me alone. Well, after that mess, how about we relax with some Bentley boxing? This is generally considered to be one of the worst missions in the game, and yeah, it is, but compared to what I just went through, I'd take these 2 eggs any day. That finishes up Frozen Altars, and we can leave netting 4 out of 6 eggs and 427 out of 600 gems. Coming out of this level, we see a brief cutscene of Hunter falling into some trap before we can continue. Next up on the list is Firework Factory. Here we reunite with Greta from the last game, who's trying to get back some of the Professor's rocket research, which the Sorcerer stole. The enemies in this level are kind of weird. Some of them seem to spawn endlessly and don't drop gems, which makes it really hard to know which ones you've already defeated. There's probably some reason this keeps happening, but I don't really know why. This is also another level that gives us a means to take out the big enemies. By spitting these rockets, we can find laying about the level. This platform over here is just barely out of reach with the charging jump, but we'll be able to reach it later, so don't fret. There's also an egg on this platform across this lava pond. This jump is super tight, but you can actually just barely make it. I only managed this twice, and I can't find the footage of me actually hatching the egg, so you'll have to deal with this clip as proof. Make sure to get all of the gems in the 2 towers in this area, and then break open the metal chest before moving on. Continuing through the level, enemies will keep appearing to ambush you, so keep your wits about you as you proceed. This gap here is definitely too wide to cross with a jump. Show off. Well, it's too wide for us to jump across at least, but thankfully we don't have to, as we can jump into the nearby cannon to launch ourselves over there. You can also hop down onto that platform that we couldn't make it to before. Clear and cross the bridge, making sure to have a missile swallowed to spit out at this metal chest. Then we can watch Greta clear a path and sabotage the Sorcerer's missile. Seriously, what does it take to crack a dragon egg? Despite us not really doing that much, Greta gives us the egg as thanks. Head back out of this area and turn right at the bridge to find a little area with a portal, which takes us to meet up with Handel. This area is simple, we just have to follow a path around, taking out all of the enemies, and at the end there's an egg for us. Not much really to say. Do remember to grab a missile from later in the level and then backtrack to take out the 2 big Rhinox at the start. There's also a portal off in the distance that we can't reach, which I'm kind of glad about because I really didn't want to have to fight that dragon. I hate that mission. There's also another portal in the rocket chamber, but it's another one that's locked until we rescue one of the Sorceress's prisoners, so we're gonna have to return here later. We now get to see what happened to Hunter. He's being held prisoner, or at least that's what he wants us to think. Acting pretty chummy with Bianca there, aren't you, huh, buddy? Our final level in Evening Lake is Charmed Ridge. Here we have to help these fairies stop the marriage between their princess and the evil cat wizard prince. The enemies in this level are unique in that there are no large ones, rather just regular ones who can be made big by cat wizards, meaning all of the enemies here can be taken out as long as we can reach them. There's a wizard moving a giant chess piece around and it'll drop down on us if we try to get past. It's still possible to get by, but I found it very inconsistent. Luckily, there's a checkpoint right in front of it. On the other side, we can find Moneybags, who's worked out a deal with the wizards to let us pass for a toll, which, for whatever reason, we're paying to him. This will make the stairs appear, allowing us to continue. From this bridge here, you can do a charging jump into this cave where we can score an egg. There's an exploding pot in here, so sacrifice yourself to that, then come back and head for the other end of the cave where we can do a jump over to this platform for an egg, which I'm pretty sure isn't the intended way to get this. I thought we might be able to get over to the other platform across from this by using the giant rook as a bridge, but apparently we can't stand on it. When you come to these platforms, going in and out, use them as a staircase and do a charging jump across to this small island. Unfortunately, we won't be able to reach either of the caves on the other side of this. There are a few more gaps for the rest of the level, but all of them can be navigated with charging jumps. In this building at the end, there's a frankly unnecessary amount of exploding pots. It's going to be a bit of an agonizing process getting rid of all these, so for now, just leave them and we'll come back at the end. Collect everything on the bottom level, then use the whirlwind to ascend, which sucks since this is another one that we're forced to glide out of. There's one of those question mark pots up here, but don't even bother starting this as eventually it becomes unreachable, so you'd just be wasting your time. There's also a Sergeant Bird segment out over here. I find this one to be kind of annoying. We have to take out all these cat witches, which isn't all that hard, but there's 3 rounds of it, and if we die, it's back to round 1. It's still more than doable though, just not my favourite. Once you've nabbed all of the goodies up here, take out the cat wizards to lower the exit leading to the princess, who it turns out doesn't need saving at all. Apparently the fairies are just prejudiced, and she's actually in love with the prince. And I mean, who wouldn't be? They ride off into the sunset, and we're given an egg for our silence. Now all we have to do is destroy those exploding pots, which is a really fun time, and then we're done and can leave, scoring 308 out of 600 treasure and 4 out of 6 eggs. I feel like 4 out of 6 eggs is becoming a bit of a theme with these levels. That's everything in Evening Lake taken care of, so now board the big rocket and blast off to the next homeworld. While we travel, the sorceress seems to have finally had enough, revealing her plan of killing all the baby dragons so that she can use the magic of their wings to live forever. Bianca decides that this is too far and walks away from the situation, so maybe I was wrong about her being all evil. I mean, she was still chill with kidnapping unborn children. The sorceress just lets her leave for some reason, as she makes another beast for us to fight. The fight against Scorch is much better than whatever the name of that last guy was. When possible, I favoured the green ammunition type against them since it just felt better to use, but either ammunition type is legal under our rules. It can get a little bit frustrating with all the minions they spawn, especially in the last phase where they just straight up spawn Buzz from the first boss fight, but all things considered, it's not too hard to Scorch. Afterwards, we get another cutscene where Bianca frees Hunter from prison, which, okay, maybe I was wrong about Bianca being evil, but that guy is definitely up to something. What are you thinking, Bianca? Okay, now let's get started on the next homeworld, Midnight Mountain. Immediately behind the room we arrive in, there's these stairs with some gems on it that leads to an egg that is unfortunately too far away for us to get to. There are 2 bridges off the first island, and to start with, take the one to the right, then after collecting all of the gems on this island, chase down the nearby Na for our first egg here. Now continue over the bridge and collect all of the gems over here. There's also this ice wall over here that we can headbutt to smash through. There's an egg on the other side, but again, the jump to it is way too far for us to make. Continue into the building here where you can find another egg sitting in some poison. This jump here worried me for some reason, but it is very easy to make. Now backtrack and head down into the cave here to collect all of the gems, then exit out the other end. Collect all the gems out here and across the bridge, then jump here and head bash the floor to find some more gems and a 3rd egg. Finally, go back to the start of the level and take the other bridge over to meet Moneybags, who's holding another one of the sorceress's prisoners, Agent 9. You know the drill now, pay Moneybags, free Agent 9 and watch an assault with a deadly weapon, and we can finish Midnight Mountain with 393 out of 400 treasure and 3 out of 6 dragon eggs collected. Agent 9's level plays like a third-person shooter, which isn't my favourite of the alternate playstyles this game has to offer, but it's at least better than Bentley's segments. And yes, since we don't play as Spyro in this one, it's completely completable. You know the drill, 3 out of 3 eggs and 700 out of 700 treasure. Same goes for the segment in Firework Factory, except this time it plays like a first-person shooter rather than a third-person one. I like this even less to be honest, but for the 2 eggs that we get for doing this, it's well worth it, bringing us up to 5 out of 6 dragon eggs and 515 out of 600 treasure in Firework Factory. Okay, so now on to the rest of the levels in Midnight Mountain, but first I'll be doing things a little bit differently for this homeworld. You see, just like in Spyro 2, we don't actually have to complete any of the levels in the final homeworld to get to the final boss. All we need is a high enough egg count to open up the sorceress's big door, 100 eggs to be specific. We're sitting on 76 right now, meaning that we have to get 24 eggs from the rest of the levels here. A tall task to be sure, but not technically impossible. Okay, that's enough talk, let's get started with the next level, Crystal Island. Jump down into the water at the start to get your hands on some gems. I was a little worried about this level as I thought we'd have to defeat some of these crystal creatures which are immune to our charge. Turns out I was wrong though, and we just have to defeat some of these weird flying demon beaver things, which we can actually do by jumping and charging at them. Get all the treasure in the water down here, then exit the cave using the crystal bridge that the wizard makes for us. To the right there's an island with an egg on it, which I thought would be too far for us to reach, and yeah, I should have just trusted my instincts. This really sucks, since to continue on the main path there's another just barely unjumpable gap. I tried so many times to make this one, I even tried getting a running start, but nope, no dice. Since the only egg we could have collected up until now is uncollectible, that means that we finish up in Crystal Islands with a mere 96 out of 700 gems and an abysmal 0 out of 6 eggs. Not a good start. Let's hope our next level, Desert Ruins, is a bit of a better showing. Here we have to help this mouse explorer find his girlfriend. There aren't any Rhinox in this level, just scorpions, but the same rules apply with the big ones being undefeatable and the little ones being able to be dealt with a charge. We can also deal with the weird cauldron enemies that flame the ground, which I honestly didn't expect. If we head up the stairs here we can find a locked chest, but the key is well out of our reach this time, making this one unopenable. We also can't reach to the gems over on the hand of this statue over here. This part here really worried me. We have to jump across these sinking platforms to get across a river of acid, but the jump from the last platform back to solid ground seems to be too far to cross. This is on the main path, so if we can't get across, this would make this another level where we can't get a single egg. I just couldn't accept that, so I kept trying over and over and over again, and eventually I was able to make it across. Thank God, I was about to give up. We're not out of the woods yet though, as we have more long jumps to make, though these ones are thankfully a lot easier to cross. If we head up the ladder here, we can get a couple more gems, but there's no way that we can get across to the other areas from up here, locking us out of a lot of eggs in this level. We can still continue on the main path though after paying money bags in the tomb. This part here was a real pain. You have to get past all these large scorpions without getting burnt, then take out the cauldron before it can flame the floor while also not getting got by the scorpion. We then need to get down here and take out this cauldron on the lower level quickly while also not landing on the floor while it's still hot. It is doable, but I kept accidentally using a glide, forcing me to die and start over. Head out of the tomb to find this, okay, I'll just say it, sexy rodent, and we get awarded an egg. Once you've nabbed all of the treasure out here, head back into the tomb and up this ladder. Then follow this path around to drop down this hole where we'll find a portal which leads us to a manta ray mission, returning from Spyro 2. We just need to take out these sharks to get ourselves an egg. It's not too hard, but make sure to bust open all the metal chests around the place so that you can grab the gems inside once you're finished with the manta ray. That's all we can do here, giving us 423 out of 700 gems, but just 2 out of 6 eggs. Better than the last level, but still not very good. Haunted Tomb is up next. Here we need to not only make it through the catacombs, but come up with an answer for this dude's riddle.
I am a vessel without hinges, lock, or lid, yet within my walls a golden treasure is hid.
I'll let you think on that while we go through the level. This one is thankfully way more completable than the other levels in this homeworld so far. These big enemies chuck these red hot balls at us, and if they miss we can pick them up and spit them back out to kill the big dudes and the sarcophaguses that spawn the smaller enemies. There are a few parts in this level that do prove a bit of a problem though, namely the areas where it's raining rocks from the sky. These things have a really weird hitbox, making it a hassle to collect all of the gems around them. Not impossible, just a real pain. Despite that though, we can still complete almost all of this level. The only area we can't reach is this part close to the start of the level, but other than that, it's a pretty simple path to the end where we can answer the riddle from earlier. Got your answers? That's right, a bandicoot! After getting this egg, backtrack through the level and head up these stairs and into the portal here. In here we have to use a hovercraft to take out all the other hovercrafts, which is about as on brand for an Egypt themed level as a flamethrower. I find this mission kind of annoying. The hovercraft controls aren't my favourite, making it hard to get a shot off at one of the opponents before we get shot ourselves. It still doesn't take any dragon abilities though, so both it and the second level are beatable for 2 more eggs. Now go to the Agent 9 segment. We have to get through several small arenas, with each one adding more enemy types to take out. It can be a little hard to get through all of these without taking a hit and having to restart, but it's not too bad. Up this ladder at the end we can slide down a slide for another egg. Getting around this corner at the end of the slide can be pretty hard, and for the life of me I couldn't get this gem here, so I just ended up leaving it. Also, once we get to the bottom of the slide, we can't get back to the main part of the level without using a glide, and if we jump to our death, since getting an egg acts as a save, we're stuck here. So make sure that this is the last thing that you do so that you can exit the level from the guidebook, giving us 6 more eggs and 619 out of 700 treasure. The last level here in Midnight Mountains is Dino Mines, and this was a painful one. The Dino Cowboys, yeah, this is a weird one, shoot super fast and multiple times, making it real hard to get past them. It's also hard to get rid of sparks using them since they do this showboating after they hit you once, making this an arduous process. The ones with TNT and the ones that have a turret are easier to get around, but it's still a hassle, and only the ones on a turret can be taken out. I actually developed a method to make it easier to get around them in this level. You see, I found out that if an enemy isn't on screen, it doesn't seem to be able to attack us, even when we're super close. So by strategically aiming the camera away from the enemies as we make our way through the level, we can avoid any conflicts. It's not a 100% surefire way to get through, but it's the safest way that I found. Once you get into the water, you can take out all of these mermaid dinosaur things. Again, this is a weird level. I got worried with all the TNT floating around the place, but as it turns out, these ones are just obstacles and don't have any gems in them. We can also break down this wall for our first egg. Continue through the level until you find this big water well, then dive in and head through the portal down here. This leads to another high-speed tunnel, like the one in Seashell Shores, and we just need to avoid all the obstacles down here to get to the end to get an egg. Back out at the top of the water well, we can see an Agent 9 segment, and I thought with how much height we have, we might be able to compensate for the distance and get there with the charging jump, but unfortunately, it seems not, so just bust down the wall here to free the sheriff for another egg. There is one more egg in this level that I thought we might be able to get by charge jumping around this corner, but it seems like a glide is definitely necessary for this one, so we can just leave Dino Mines with 449 out of 700 treasure and 3 out of 6 dragon eggs. Okay, so that's it for the levels in Midnight Mountain, and yeah, as you might have guessed, we're still short on eggs. To get through to the fight with the sorceress, specifically, we need 13 more. So it's time to backtrack and collect some more eggs, using as few dragon abilities as possible, right? Well, no, not just yet actually, as we have a few smaller levels that we can still do first, specifically the Sparks levels. There's one of these in each homeworld that unlocks after we beat that world's boss. They play like a top-down shooter, and each one gives us an egg upon completion. You might think that we can't do these since Sparks is banned for the rest of the game, however that rule specifically relates to using him as health. There's nothing against playing as him. Since we haven't beat the sorceress yet, we can't get to the last one of these, meaning that we only have 3 available to us, each of which we can complete for 1 out of 1 dragon egg and 200 out of 200 treasure. Now, we need just 10 more eggs, and yeah, it's actually time that we revisit older levels looking for eggs that require the fewest number of dragon abilities to get. My first thought was to go back to Crystal Islands and complete it, but I discovered that after this first glide, there's multiple more required to get to the end, plus a mandatory flame. Since if past trends are to be believed, we can probably only get 4 eggs from here. That's a ratio of 1 dragon ability use per egg, which I was pretty sure I could do better than elsewhere. So I looked through all the remaining eggs in the game and found what I'm pretty sure are the most dragon ability efficient ones. In Seashell Shores, we can use the glide to get over to the area with the portal to the Sheila segment. Here there are 2 eggs, both obtainable. The first we get for helping out these seals blow up the Rhinoc Tower by destroying the turrets, which can easily be done by just stomping the barrels. The other ones can be found by high jumping up into this cave. Just this one glide brings our total in Seashell Shores up to 368 out of 400 treasure and 6 out of 6 eggs collected. Now in Lost Fleet, from the top of the ship we can glide over to this cave with the poison water pouring out. Through the portal here, Crazy Ed asks us to use their sub to clear the water of all the other subs. I remember having a lot of trouble with this in the PS1 version, but here getting a lock on the subs and taking them out wasn't a problem at all, making this an easy egg. More subs appear after getting our first egg, and we can get another for clearing all of them out, but all that seems to have changed this time is that there's one more target, so it's not really any more difficult. While still on the sub, destroy the 2 metal chests down here, then exit and use the defense power up to swim around in the toxic water to collect all of the gems. You won't be able to collect all of them before the power up runs out, so just play it safe and reapply it well before it runs out so you don't meet a grisly fate down here. With these collected, we're done here and can update our total for Lost Fleet to 6 out of 6 eggs and 546 out of 600 treasure. Over in Desert Ruins, we can glide over to the Sheila portal to do one of her segments. This one is a 2D platformer. A kind of bad one. I don't know, this isn't bad, but it's also just sort of boring to play. Halfway through you get an egg and another once you get to the end. From just outside Sheila's portal, we can also do a jump over to this area for some more gems. I got my hopes up that we could get the egg at the end of this path, but it would take a glide to get over there, so just don't worry about it and move on with 512 out of 700 gems and 4 out of 6 eggs. Head over to Dino Mines now, where we can glide down to the Agent 9 segment. This one is an on-rails shooter, where we have to take out all the Dino Cowboys. If you just hold down the fire button, it's pretty easy to mow them all down. They say a meteor made the dinosaurs extinct, but I think we all know the truth. Once we get our egg for clearing out the course, we can explore the area freely to collect some gems and find another egg hidden in this building, bringing us up to 5 out of 6 dragon eggs and 536 out of 700 gems. That's unfortunately it for areas where we can get multiple eggs for 1 dragon ability, and we're still 2 eggs short, so now we're going to want to look for eggs that have a ratio of 1 ability for 1 egg. Luckily, we have plenty to choose from. First, I went to Cloud Spires and torched this enemy to get the egg here, since honestly, it's bugged me ever since we first came here that we couldn't score this one despite being able to touch it. For the last egg, I decided to get a little bit silly with it and went to one of the speedways, which I haven't actually mentioned yet. I did one of the races. As long as we don't land and need to take back off, this technically only counts as 1 ability used, so you know, why not? Okay, so with that all out of the way, we now have exactly enough eggs to open up the door to the sorceress, so we can finally go face the big bad herself, and this fight is underwhelming. Yeah, so Agent 9 drops a series of vehicles down, each of which have some sort of weapon that we can use to damage the sorceress. None of these require a flame to use, so unlike the other game's final bosses, this one actually doesn't require any dragon abilities. That doesn't mean that this fight isn't still kind of annoying. It suffers a lot from the same problems that other bosses in this run have had, namely that when we have no health, a lot of our possible weapon drops are replaced with sheep that were meant to turn into health. The ones in this fight really like to crowd around the middle of the arena, which just so happens to be where the sorceress likes to stand, meaning that a lot of the time to hit her you'll have to kill a sheep or 2, which also leaves a butterfly behind that if we pick up, we have to waste more time getting rid of before we can continue. This was especially annoying in the last phase. The vehicle we have to use this time immediately moves forward, toward the center, pushing us into whatever sheep we just killed, forcing us to pick up a butterfly and get sparks back, meaning we have to get rid of the vehicle, lose sparks, and wait for Agent 9 to grace us with another weapon. It's still more than doable to be defeat her without any dragon abilities, and when we do so, she kinda just falls into the lava. No final villain speech, no second phase. The whole final boss just feels kind of undercooked IMO. With the sorceress defeated, all the dragon eggs are finally safe, and Spyro can enjoy some time off with his girlfriend. Allura? Yeah, seems like they kinda just wanted to give Spyro a love interest at the end of the trilogy and didn't really have many options for main named female characters other than Bianca, so they just hooked him up with Allura. Whatever though, they're still cute together. I just wish he'd gotten with Tara. So, can you beat Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon without being a dragon? No, but you already knew that. If you made it to this point in the video, you've sat through what I assume is over an hour of me talking just to get the same answer you would have gotten like 6 minutes in. It wasn't a waste though, at least I don't think so. I try to keep count of how many dragon abilities we use in these runs, though I always kinda lose track. I think the amount we used here was about 23 abilities, 9 flames, 13 glides, and 1 fly, which I think is better than in any of our other Spyro runs so far. If you think you can get those numbers down a little, why not let me know how in the comments below, and while you're down there, why not consider liking and subscribing? I've been getting a lot more recommendations for how to make these runs more successful lately, and even when they don't end up helping, I still appreciate the ideas. Well, anyways, until next time, I've been Katie Cat, and thank you for watching.
Oh, that's cool.